Good evening, music multiverse listeners. This is Beyond Your Radio Show, What's in Your Ear? This show allows us and any of our panelists and contributors to join in as we share what we've been listening to over the past week or two. Each show is completely unique and should really be an ear opener for our audiences, our panelists, to hear about some band or albums that they may not have known about or forgotten about for that matter. Listen, it's impossible to listen to everything. Believe me, I'm the idiot who tries. So based on tonight's panel, the three of us here, we're going to go with three choices for each of us. So we'll each get a turn until we're done with our three choices. So a panelist today, I've got Alex Kaluzny from Lockport, New York. And returning for another show from Hawaii, we have Jeffrey Johnson, Chef Jeff, who just got done installing multiple air conditioning units. So he's waiting to sit down and do this. So we appreciate him doing this with us today. So each of the panelists will divulge a particular album, band, song, style, whatever. They'll let us know what it is, where it falls in the great music multiverse, maybe why they had it in their ear to begin with, and maybe who might enjoy the album, this sound. So just to make everyone aware, due to copyright and demonetization problems with YouTube, we will not attempt to play any of the music. Now, if a particular band is out there and happens to see us doing this and would love to come on the show and do a play-by-play discussing the record with our panelist of choice, we would certainly be open to doing that, no question. We're here to turn people on to things that they may not have heard or experienced. So without further ado, let's let Alex start us off. And I believe you got the floor.
Well, I would say normally I would try to challenge myself and think outside the box on an album. But knowing this is the first edition of What's in Your Ear, I thought a little bit about albums that, well, we had a discussion recently, you and I, Mark, where we were saying, what album could you listen to front to back? And I started naming off a few that I could. And then it divulged into what bands could you never skip a song from? And so for me, I started thinking three albums that, I just get in those moods where I'm like, for the first episode, getting to know panelists like Jeff and I and you, let me just throw some out there that are cornerstones that I'll probably play front to back, make sure it's in track order and whatnot, throughout the year, every year. And so leading off, The Color and Shape by the Foo Fighters is my first one. So there's a quote, and I wish I could attribute it to who it belongs to right now, from a recent interview, but they were talking about the production of music. And they said that there's very few albums that nowadays maintain the concept of, synchronicity and wanting to put things in a certain order for a certain reason in an album and designing a track list. And I would say the reason this album sticks for me and why it's such a constant in my playlist is that album was the first one I've probably ever listened to front to back in my life that I went, oh my gosh, the album's done. I liked everything on that. And that was obviously in my younger years with how old this album is. But right. The track list does something that I don't hear a lot of in modern I guess I'll call them CDs even in that era. But I think this is attributed to more the vinyl era, is how tracks flowed into each other. And I only picked this up because I'll play these tracks, obviously, through an Apple device now. And God forbid it's ever on shuffle, you'll hear the first part, or you'll play a song, you'll hear the end part of a track before it going right into the song itself. And I always found that cool that you never know when the track is seamlessly floating in. Like they do it right off the start. Going from Doll to Monkey Wrench to Hey Johnny Park, like they all kind of just do this the entire way through, where it's you hear one fade out, you hear the other one pick back up and go. And I think that's something that's lost nowadays, because you have that such defined, here's the start of the song, here's the end of the song. That's it. And I thought that kind of gives it a better live feel.
Would you say, Jeff, that that was more of a product of the 70s, where music the songs bled into another track, where they led into?
I think it's more product of the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more 60s. But I think that's all the record producer. I think that's all the record producer just decides all that. And I think for whatever reason, and I totally agree that it's something that we entirely miss. And you'll understand that when you get to mine first song.
Good. I love it.
And actually, I just thought of who had that quote. I was on Twitter the other day, and it was Joe Bonamassa talking about that.
Okay. Yeah, he was,
because he goes, wouldn't it be smarter for someone to just come out with 5 singles than ever make an EP? And then he started going on to a tangent about the lost art of making the album a theme and staying with it and actually putting together an album. And so funny enough, and then Jeff, to think even of the 60s or 70s, I think you just gave me my my album listen challenge for you. So I think you because I can think of another album from that era. I can think of another album from that era that does the same thing this album did from the Foo Fighters for me in noticing that. A little bit, this being more modern, but from that era that did the seamless transition and part of a track flowing into each other that comes from that era, that I'll take a shot and say that you might not have heard it, and Mark probably would nail it down for me in 3 guesses which one I'm thinking of, but
an idea, but I'll let it go for now, because that make for another episode.
Save content.
Is that where you're at, Alex? Can I move on to Jeff? We good?
No, I mean, I guess the last thing I'll say on it is, like, that album, as far as recommending it to people, it is still too niche. Like, I think with that early Foo Fighters album, songs like Enough Space, or My Poor Brain, like, there's a lot of people I know that can't handle the screamingness of the Foo Fighters in that era, and that early Dave Grohl grunge angst still kind of sitting there. So, would I recommend it to everybody? No, but I think it's extremely underrated for tracks like that never got, maybe enough notoriety or play. And, at the end, I think, between February Stars, Everlong being as popular as it is, Walking After You, I mean, some of those other than Everlong, really good, slower tracks that just were so well written and so hidden at the end of a good record like this. So that's my piece on that.
That's why they're still here today. Yeah.
And it was before Taylor Hawkins. So
yes, he was playing with Alanis Morissette at that point.
So for those who want hope that the Foo Fighters can be the Foo Fighters without them, there's your optimism.
Yeah.
Because I need that too.
It's their choice. Jeff, what's your first for today?
Well, it's funny. I'm so close to Alex on this. I'm in the same mindset. I tried to think of what album I liked and what I listened to a whole bunch. And I listened to this album 3 times this week. Okay. And last week it was 2 times. I love this album, and you'll understand in a minute. People who know me believe that I'm a Deadhead, and I am very much, but the Dead are not my favorite band. My favorite band is Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Has been and always will be. They're, to me, both on the record and on live, they are phenomenal. Okay? I don't think it's everybody's groove, because they almost have a genre on their own in some directions. But the album I picked is from 1974, and it's called So Far.
Okay.
And So Far is interesting because what they did was they went back and played the number 1 single, basically picked the number 1 singles of their past albums. It starts with Deja Vu, it goes to Helplessly Hoping, Wooden Ships, Teach Your Children, Ohio, Woodstock, Our House, Helpless, Guinevere, and Sweet Judy Blue Eyes.
Okay.
That's a I call a home run album. All the songs are good. They're all made natural intention, every single one of them. Is it a little cliche, possibly, but the album works. It if you listen to it back to back, all the songs, they just slam in perfectly where they should be. It's a great album. Is it my favorite album there? Probably not, because this one is a little bit more typical, or a little bit more what word I'm looking for. It's basically their top 10. Okay. And it's not their more obscure stuff.
Right. No,
But-
that's for sure.
But I tell you what, for mowing a lawn for an hour and a half, this is the best album there is, period. You cruise from one great song, and you don't have to listen hard because you already know the words to every song.
You're telling me you don't mow the lawn in a big green tractor?
No. I end up crashing to the side. So
No,
I
but
need
it's like a comfort food then, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is comfort food.
Yeah.
That's eating a
Because-
cheese quesadilla with hot sauce at 10 p.m. and immediately regretting it by 9 a.m.
Yeah, well, that's not comfort food.
Well, I can't cook like you. That's my comfort food.
Exactly. Well, hey, macaroni and cheese, that's comfort food.
There you go.
Okay.
But what I'm saying about this album is that when I listen to a new album Mark sends me, or a challenge, I have to think about the words. I have to think, this is a no think album.
Yeah.
It is so popular, even though people who don't like Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, you're going to recognize half of these songs because they were so popular.
Yep.
Especially if you're my age or minus 10 years my age, you're going to know immediately.
Yeah.
But things like Sweet Judy Blue Eyes or Wooden Ships, Ohio, those are all multi-platinum records, or singles, I should say.
Yeah, singles. I have a my favorite Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young records. Well, first of all, I consider Crosby to be one of the great collaborators. I think he brings people together very well.
I was
You know,
really
and
thinking
all
you're
the
going to say
things
one of the best hockey players.
Oh, well, no, that's a different guy. But he just, any projects that he was bringing people together and he could harmonize with, their harmonies are just, they're wicked, right? I mean, I know that you're a fan, Jeff, with them without Neil Young, because of the harmonies still created with, Stills and Nash.
I'm a fan both ways, but I prefer them with.
Yeah, I prefer them with too. My favorite album is American Dream. I don't know what it is.
Great album.
It's probably the more obtuse version of them, but I can never get enough of that record. But it's a great pick.
Yeah, not only did I see that record, but I saw their an American Dream tour twice.
Oh wow.
Yep.
I didn't
Back to back, Saturday and Sunday, back to back.
Where was that at?
Universal City, San Fernando Valley, North
San Fernando?
Hollywood.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought maybe you might have got lucky. It was at the Fillmore.
No.
Oh, there's
No,
so many shows my era misses that I wish I could have seen that
This
you
is
guys
why we
have
have
seen.
these conversations, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I've been to the Fillmore 32 times, I think it was.
Wow.
So I've seen a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And I was at the closing too.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember you saying that.
When I missed it. Yeah.
See, in your shoes, I'd feel bad for my generation because you may have seen the Doors at some point, or had a chance to. And I think the best I ever had was getting to see Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger playing with the lead singer of Fuel here in Lockport, of all places. But just the opportunity to get to see bands that I remember stories my dad's telling me of getting to see shows in the odd and sneaking in with the janitors knowing them by first name and hiding them in the closet till showtime and stuff like that. It just reminds me of a whole lost era of good live music that it's good to hear the stuff that you've experienced.
And the thing was is back then, and this is probably getting off topic, but you could go to a show relatively inexpensively back then compared to the show tickets now. It's
Yeah, it's
not it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
yeah.
So, but hey, Mark.
All right, so my first pick tonight is I went to the record store like I always do, and I go bargain hunting. I search and I search, and so this band came up in the miscellaneous teas, and the name of the band is Temples, and my eyesight is not what it used to be. I really couldn't see what year it was made in because obviously they make the print microscopic. So I just picked it up and I said, geez, I got a picture of it behind me, but it's this British looking building and it's got some guys that look sort of progressive on the outside. So I'm thinking Pink Floyd kind of thing.
The album from here looks like the one with Who album.
Yeah, well, okay.
Just from here on Zoom, I'm trying to look at it back there. And
so anyway, I pick it up and I'm $2.99. Perfect. I'll take it. Right. If it's a bomb, I only lost $2, $3. So what it is it's the debut from an English psychedelic band that harkens big bass drum sound that goes back to the late 60s and early 70s. When I heard it, I mean, it comes on like gangbusters and it sounds pristine. The production quality is, fantastic. And what struck me is it sounds like it's from that era. So I was like, maybe it is, and sure enough, it's from 2014. So it's not old at all. It's technically new. So this is a psychedelic rock band playing that. So their one song on there called Keep in the Dark is actually in the closing credits of the disturbing movie The Gift with what's her name there? She played Galadriel in Lord of the Rings.
I'll be the first to
Kate
confess
Blanchett.
to anyone that watches this, I am the last person that's going to pick up on any sort of actor-actress reference. So
yeah,
that's
Kate
also
Blanchett.
your wheelhouse.
Yeah, not my wheelhouse. I have to call you and ask you who's playing.
Yeah, that's
You're the
true.
one that hosts an Oscars party. That's none of us.
Yeah. So check this out. When I liken this, right? It's the Beatles Revolver meets the Byrds. It's kind of transportive and it's very elegant. It's very elegantly done. I was stunned at how good this is. They do have some other records. I'm going to be getting into those, but so it's Temples, and the name of the album is Sun Structures, and it's their debut from 2014.
You have
Back
been
to
on
you,
the
Alex.
psychedelic. Well, you have been on the psychedelic rock kick.
Sort of, but there's
in
psychedelic rock
various
has so many
forms.
different genres and disconnections.
Yeah.
I was born in the psychedelic rock.
Yes.
See, I hear
Well,
the word
I don't do the
psychedelic rock.
drugs,
I
so I
cut
do the
my
albums.
teeth on that.
See, I hear psychedelic rock, and I immediately want to say Q107 at the end of it.
Yeah, it's true.
Good old psychedelic Sundays that I grew up on. I'm listening to that station up north. So, no, my second album is another one of my favorites, and honestly, it's one of my favorite lyrical records. That is one of the first albums that I'd have to stop tracks, and I think the second time I listened to it, I listened to every single song with the lyrics up on a website to actually, did he just say, yeah, he did. Okay. And so many quotable, weird things that you can say. I mean, for our listeners, just a line like, you could give an aspirin the headache of its life.
I like
that.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that. Okay.
That's lines like that have made me explore this band, and I haven't come across anything I don't like by them yet. But this album being my favorite, Beautiful People Will Ruin Your Life by the Wombats. I just think back to so many things that they'll say. I can't pick, other than the one I just mentioned. It just depends. It's an album that if I'm playing shuffle, which for in my bio, I mentioned that I'm more of a singles guy than an album guy. In terms of what I listen to, it can be various parts of different bands and only parts of albums I like, a couple tracks here and there. But if I come across in shuffle and one of these songs is on, it stays on. This is one that's hard for me to skip anything from. And
Alex,
Yeah.
can you give them the type of music? So because the
Yeah.
Wombats would be somebody that wouldn't maybe get they'd be a little bit beyond the radio.
Yeah, they are. You know what? It makes me wonder how I got into them. I think Turn was a single, with the lyrics that I just mentioned. So I think that was one of the few ones that got mainstream. It's a little bit on the alternative side. They have a softer sound to them. Obviously, is it Love, Fame, Tragedy? I believe is the other band that their singers started, and you know, going to the Beyond Your Radio theme, I think that they might have had one single I heard on the radio, Cheating Heart, that, you know, like, I think another thing that sticks out to me with this band is I heard that song and thought, did the Wombats come out with new music? Oh, nope, that's just the lead singer and how noticeable his voice is. So
Yeah, he's a discerning voice, no question.
That and the style was very consistent between that project and this band, but yeah, definitely on the softer side. It's not anything that'll get your adrenaline moving, but when you're in one of those moods where you just want to sit and think and let whatever comes to mind, you know, wander into your.
Are they shoegaze?
I mean,
Are they Smashing Pumpkin?
they kind of got a little Smashing Pumpkins to them. I think.
Psychedelic Furs, kind of.
Yeah, and it's tough because like they're
Not every
categorized
song
as,
is the same, but yeah, they're a
no,
little bit genre.
but I've heard them categorized as pop rock before, and I'm like, that. I still debate it. You know,
Yeah. It's a fun record. They make good records. They don't bow to anybody. It doesn't seem to me. They do what they want to do.
and
They're
because
sort of
of
like the Flaming Lips.
yeah, and because of how beyond your radio they are, I really want to know what they'd be like live. You don't hear that they're ever touring. You don't.
Yeah, I don't catch that.
There's no giant billboard. The Wombats are coming March 4th. Like there's no. You never see that. Well, at least in Buffalo here
They
too.
even put a wombat on the cover. I don't even remember. I don't think so.
I don't think they've ever done a single wombat on the cover.
No.
And by the way, their album art is typically pretty spot on with just some sort of random.
So explain this album cover for me.
This album cover. So I'm pulling it up on my end here just to zoom in. I'll tell you right now, I don't have a clue what flowers and snakes on a guy's chest could possibly mean. So
Will ruin your life. Beautiful people will ruin your life. Okay.
But I will tell you right now, that is the perfect comparison to like their lyrics is when they're on a topic. And I'm trying to remember the lyrics from I don't know why I like you, but I do. I'm just trying to fire a cannon from a canoe is like the next line, and you're just like,
you got to get that rhyme. Got to get that rhyme in.
It works, and it's one of those ones you stop and pause and just go, "What did he just say?" But okay, that I guess, and that's the same reaction I have to the album art. Is I guess, you know, we'll roll with it, and it fits their brand and their image when you just go from that. There's probably some real rhyme or reason that I'm missing, but no, it's one of my favorite listens, and you know, I think that album. First single came out in 2017, so that album's a lot older than I want to give it credit for. So
it's true.
Yeah, it's a really good listen, and it's easily one of my favorites whenever I just am in that mood to think.
Yep. All right, Jeff, I'll let you number two.
Number two. Well, this one I'm sure that I'll get a lot of boos from the audience, but what can I say? Because I listen to strange crap, and that's just how it is. Maybe not strange as yours, Mark. Sometimes I listen to stuff you listen to, and I just ask myself why. But
I like a challenge. I you know,
I have been listening to because I had to work last weekend. I'm not going to mention what I do, but I work on a computer for hours at a time. So I listen to stuff that doesn't that promotes good work flow. And what I listen to once on Friday and once on Sunday, the whole album is the Lion King.
Wow. Wow. Are you
Elton
only
John.
listening to it because you're trying to figure out what the first lines are in that?
I know all the words to it. Are you kidding me?
That's about, yeah. That's
Hey.
exactly what I was going with.
I
the
thought they
first
were going to
lines.
Pennsylvania. I wasn't sure.
I haven't heard lyrics like that since Chacaron Macaron. Use
So
that as-
wow, I'm impressed.
I'm sorry. I love the album. I wasn't really that big of a fan of the movie. I have seen it, but I've seen the play 3 times.
Yeah, it's great.
And
it's a phenomenal play.
oh, it's phenomenal. And I find the music phenomenal too. It's very well written. I mean, genre, it's a musical, okay? But it's a rock musical. It's just everything's done in the style of rock. That's not Tommy by any means, but I find it very enjoyable, and for easy listening, it's fine. And in most of my situations that I listen to now, if I'm actually doing something, okay, I like to listen to something that's easygoing. I save my Led Zeppelins and U2 and other stuff like that more for when I'm just sitting out watching the beach and listening to music. But a lot of when I'm listening on purpose, it's usually because I'm working. And I'm sure this blows you guys away that I would pick something like that, but
I didn't see it coming for this episode. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm a little bit stunned, but I know you've got great range. I will tell you, of the 15,000 CDs that are behind me, that I don't think I own that. I don't think I do.
You will soon.
And it's
Well, I'm hoping I can find it in a used bin for $2.99.
but I think we're all in consensus of how good of a theatrical production it is too. Like I don't, there's no complaint there. It's interesting because I don't know if I could ever listen to musical numbers. I've had acquaintances in my life that are obsessed with listening to theatrical albums, and I'm like, unless I can see what's going on the stage, I don't want to listen to it.
Well,
so it's interesting, but it's cool to hear that makes an appearance here today.
I'm able to listen to this and you do the theatrics in my mind. I liked the album. I thought Elton John and Tim Rice did a fabulous job.
Yeah.
The writing is spectacular. It really is. It may not be in the genre that you two normally listen to, but I've any chance I get to see a play or a musical, I do it. I mean, that's what attracts me. I like theatrics. I really do. So basically, that's it. There's not much to say about the album. It's been around for, oh my God, since 93, 94 when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's as old as me, so 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but
Nice.
it's a great album.
I wish
I like it. I like it. A lot.
I wish I could brush off listening to Led Zeppelin because I'm working instead of being by the beach side.
Well, you got a beach somewhere near you.
That's right.
I have my own golf gallery to watch out here, and some guys pulling up to the 6th green, and I can clap from the window and yell 4 as they tee off on 7. So that's my beach, I guess.
Yeah.
All
okay,
right, so,
back to you, Mark.
all right. My second pick is a newer release. It released I think last week Friday. So the band is called A Certain Ratio. They've been around a while. The album title is 1982. And this is a dance club retro punk fusion in a very progressive yet playful way. It's a very, very tight band against a wild genre bend of rap, funk, and jazz, along with that dance party mindset. They're making it funky, groovy, and I dare anybody to just sit there motionless when this record's playing. Despite the ups and downs of what's in, it could be jazz, it could be there's the second song in starts in a rap guy comes in. They introduce musicians in and out of the band. But I was stunned. I didn't have any expectations, but I find it on play a lot right now. The last week, I keep going back to it. So this is for those people that like, jazz fusion. And it's funky though. It's funky. They're hitting those bass lines, and yeah, they know how to make that guitar do its thing. So
Without having heard the album yet on my end, I look at that artwork and how 1982 of them that I feel like I'm looking at a Kodak label.
Okay, so it's not a Kodak. You're close. Do you know, Jeff?
No.
VHS. So
Oh,
that's
VHS. Yeah.
yeah,
Got
it's
it.
VHS, and I want to say it starts with a T, right? TDK? Was it TDK? I think was the manufacturing company.
I just see those colors and my
Yes,
mind
that's
goes
purposeful on their part. Yes.
It is well intentionally done.
I think Kodak had something like that too.
Did they?
Their colors were like that for sure. I do know that.
I know. I could go right now and run out in my basement here across and grab a Kodak, because they had a yellow casings with the black, because I have some recordings still in VHS.
Ironically,
Yes, I
the
have
only reason
8-track too.
And the only reason I even knew those colors was because of seeing a Kodak ad on a NASCAR.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's A Certain Ratio, 1982, and it's a highly recommend. Everybody knows this. There's the top blah blah number of 23. There'll be 23 records. This one is in consideration already. So
I will
Alex,
say, go ahead, Jeff.
I'll have to listen to it. That's all.
Alex,
I hear something that makes me want to move and dance like that, and I go, give that a shot.
yeah,
It's different.
I'm Polish. The dancing is ugly, but whatever.
Well, you'll never
That's
find
why
me talking about polka here. So
That's why is that why you dance naked in your basement?
Yes, and alone in the dark.
Sue, is that why you're always upstairs?
Yeah. Absolutely.
On that note, we'll go over to my next album.
Please do.
Just to get the vision of that out of everybody's head for a second. No, my last album this one's a recent favorite of mine. I missed it when it came out in 2019, but it was brought to me by say a little shout out to number 23. It's A War on Everything by the Glorious Sons, and this combines, ironically enough, right after I got done talking about the Wombats album, I didn't really know what I was going to say about this one. But it pulls a lot of the same feelings I got from the first two that I talked about. It has a lot of the rock noise that, that I like about the Foo Fighters, that the Glorious Sons have that when you listen to it, you're engaged and you can feel the heaviness to it that, I personally enjoy. And then to me, they're as lyrically, they do something to me just like the Wombats did too. The storytelling they've had within their music. This album is single-handedly the reason I dove harder into this band and started to listen to a lot more by them. Down to, I actually just found a cover, one of my favorite, I guess you'll call it rap songs or hip hop or in that genre, is Kanye West's song Runaway. And this band covered Runaway acoustically, and I found the YouTube video for that, and it just works. Like, this band can do no wrong for me now since I've heard them. They're another one that I can listen to so much of their music. A little bit more of a mood music thing for me too. Some of their other albums and tracks on them, but this is the one that, again, I can't skip a single song when it comes on. Yeah, it doesn't maybe flow. Everything is very individual from track to track, but
Yeah, it's not a concept album by any means.
No, but it's so well done. This one, any album that can make me want to go, I need to hear more of this band. It's an instant favorite of mine and make me want to explore it. And that's what this one did. This one's by and large one of my easy favorites.
They're accessible. They're a rock band, bar none, right? They're Canadian, so they're polished.
And honestly, another one of those ones that should be more popular in the States that isn't yet, or maybe never will be, for whatever reason. But I will always be the defender to anybody that watches this, and anybody that knows me. And I'm, Mark, you'll probably agree from our countless conversations about it, that there's so much good rock music to come out of Canada that is beyond your radio here. And it's something that I've always enjoyed.
Yep. I do consider it to be in rival with Nashville. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but I believe there's more.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Yep. Totally agree.
And I don't know why. That's something I'd love to explore one day, is just why that difference in marketing and sound. Is it because I would have to think if it's getting radio play on that side of the border, it can find its way, maybe not onto the radio, but at least trickle into your headphones somehow.
It finds its way to us here that we're lucky enough to be just across the border, but the filtration further down into the gut of America is tough. And of course you got to want to tour and suffer and die for it. And once you get comfortable in Canada, you can make a living as these bands have, or they can, or some of them that get huge, they don't even wind up staying in Canada. Most of the big people are no longer, they're Canadian. Neil Young, Alanis Morissette.
I'm just going to say Nickelback.
And most of these people are living in Los Angeles
Canadian
or somewhere else by then. They're out of Canada,
Yes.
right? So
Right.
it's a mecca. I'm always respectful of it. And more on that later. Jeff, your third and final pick.
Okay. And well, I think as this goes on and we do this over time, we're going to find out that because there is a couple generations between me and you guys, that my music picks are going to be much different. It's because even though I do listen to some new music, it's only maybe 5% of what I listen to. Right. I still listen to stuff I grew up with, stuff I know. And sometimes I'll find old bands that just for some reason somebody turns me on to them and hey, this is cool. The band now that I go on is arguably the most popular band in the world. I would have to say there's very little you could do to convince me that they're not. But I'm an Apple Music guy. I don't own any cassettes. I don't own any CDs, and I own no albums. Everything I have is digital, and I like it that way. I really do. But Apple sends me this thing once every couple of weeks, must hear of stuff that I listen to. Well, there was a remix done of a very famous Beatles album. And it was sent to me and I listened to it about 3 weeks ago and then again. And then this weekend I listened to it twice because I enjoyed it so much. It was the remix of the 1970s album, Let It Be. And it's just a fabulous, what can you say? I love the whole album. Always have, always will. And, the Beatles are very easy to listen to. Extremely easy to listen to. Are they old? Yeah, but they fit in. They still, after, what has it been, 50 years now?
Yeah.
It still works. Is it beyond the radio? It is now because you never hear the Beatles on the radio anymore.
It's very true. Very true. It's a great statement to make because despite the fact that they're beyond the radio, they are the radio. It wouldn't have happened without them. What they did influenced so many other bands and so many other people. And
well, and there's three things that kind of come to mind when I hear that. It's one, I am like, I remember when I first started categorizing songs as I was burning CDs and putting them on iTunes growing up, that they always had artist, song name, album,
Right.
genre.
Mhm.
I remember at that time putting Beatles songs onto my iPod, talk about things that are dated now.
yeah,
And I remember coming to genre for Beatles, and I literally just made them the genre. And I will always say that they are a band that if you're going to teach a music class,
That's
you
the
should
class.
start at the Beatles. That
Yeah.
should be the first time you educational system should put the Beatles at the forefront is the first thing you learn.
Yeah.
I know for me, I took a music appreciation class in high school as a bogus throwaway class, and yeah, they dove into Elvis and Buddy Holly and Jerry Lee Lewis, and you dive into that era first. But for me, it starts and ends at the Beatles, where you should think to introduce people to music and appreciating music first. So the other things I wanted to say on that, Jeff, that I'm curious about is why the remix? What was different about it with it?
In one word, cleaner. Did that make
Okay.
sense?
recorded at Abbey Road.
Huh?
Was that recorded at Abbey Road?
2021 in Abbey Road.
Okay, so this is they grabbed the tapes, and that was all 4-track.
Okay, so it's just
Four
the
tracks.
way it
Oh,
was produced.
No, it was 16 track.
No, see, okay, that's true, but it was 4-track, 4-track, 4-track,
Correct.
4-track,
Correct.
because there
Correct.
was no 6. You couldn't do it because and then in that 4, they had to commit that some instruments were on, 3 instruments were on 1.
Right.
So they were pretty smart. They were brilliant, no question.
Yeah.
I didn't
yeah,
know if it was a
their
production
sound
thing or
unbelievable. They're
Yeah.
unbelievable.
okay.
Yeah. They're it's so interesting when I listen to this band, and find little factoids here and there that Paul McCartney has to this day cannot read music.
Yep.
Period. And
That's about the only thing Paul McCartney and I have in common.
What's your falsetto?
That's excellent. That'll be, if there's any takeaway that anybody can have from this, there it is right there. That there's a similarity of Paul McCartney and Alex that they both can't read music. Congratulations.
I have 6 guitars.
Write
and
the
because
man
I
a
can't,
check for $44 million.
oh, I wish. I have 6
Yeah.
guitars, and the only thing that happens is I look at them and gently weep that I can't play them.
Well, yeah. George would like that.
Yes, he would love that. So
But yeah, so as I said, as weeks go on, I may explore deeper. But when my usual work, my week between work and chores and whatever I do, I listen to music that is familiar to me.
right.
I am not afraid of listening to new stuff. Like the challenge.
Right.
I listened to an album and I found a new album I love. In fact, I listened to it twice since I doing the challenge.
Yeah.
So things will happen. I'm not by no means a closed book, but I do have a lot of my internal recorder is on a big loop. It just goes around and around and around. Sometimes you can splice something in, but a lot of these picks that I'm going to have over the weeks and the months to come will be things that now they may be completely beyond somebody else's radio.
Yep.
Even though these are very common to me, but I remember talking to somebody maybe a month ago or so at a coffee bar. We were talking, and he asked what I was listening to. I said the Beatles. He goes, "Who's the Beatles?" And he honestly did not know who the Beatles was.
It's
So-
true. It's true. It's definitely
Wow.
beyond the radio now. No question.
So
That scares me. That's
It's okay.
just to hear something like that. I'm like, whoa.
But
That's
then-
why.
Then
That's why I
somebody
say
can
the
change,
education,
talk to.
and that's why I say the education system just needs to have an entire unit dedicated to them.
I'm
Heck, I
agreed.
remember one of my favorite memories was that the video game Rock Band, where you got to play instruments on there, and there was a Beatles edition. Like it was one of the best.
Well, remember that was a big thing for the record industry. That was a big mover and helper. New record sales happened because of that. They expected TikTok to be the same thing. They didn't get quite the same reaction at TikTok.
I remember that video game. There was a lot of bands that I feel like were popular,
Mhm.
but because of them being on the game, all of a sudden certain singles and songs of that band, or maybe, a band itself would just,
Let's put it this way: Blue Oyster Cult wasn't selling multi-platinum records at that time until that came around, and then
correct. Yeah. And, like even, who else had a great impact from that? And I remember he was, Tom Morello was one of the characters. Rage Against the Machine had a great impact from that video game. They were on almost every single one for various songs. So I remember playing Killing in the Name on there. I remember playing Bulls on Parade. Like they're perfect for one of those bands that they were good in their own right. The game helped them take off. And at the Beatles edition, the way they made that game to represent the different eras of the Beatles and teach you a story as you went along it, that's the perfect way to just learn about them at the base level for anybody. That was a really cool experience to do something like that got so widely produced.
I remember when they came to LA for their first concert. I was
You got
10
me
years
there.
old.
You got me
I was
there.
10 years, I was 10 years old. Had it on TV. Them going through the crowds and stuff like that. Yeah.
I was there when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
by
by
there,
tape.
I mean, I
By
pretended.
tape. Yeah. No, I actually saw the original.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. If I still can remember it, it's a lucky thing. So,
It's true. It's true.
okay, Mark, your last
right.
one.
So I'm going to close this off. I'm going to go back to Canada, which I consider a holy grail in music finds usually. So remember those. I'm going to take you down a darker path. This is not an easy record. So the band is from British Columbia. Their name is Hail the Void. I've already done an article on their record. It's called Memento Mori. No, that's not Depeche Mode, although Depeche Mode released an album with the same title this year as well. This is tenacity and production of stoner doom metal. This is eerie rock and with crushing riffs. It's a very dimensional record. This is a stand up and take notice. If you are a metal person, hard rock person, if you like Sabbath, this is a must listen to. The stoner charts and stuff are going crazy over this band. They did not have a record label. They made their own albums and sent them out. The first records they made, they sent out about 300. They're still self-producing. So Memento Mori is out there. This is, and if you get an idea of vocal style, this is Coverdale meets Alice in Chains meets Typo Negative with Black Sabbath. This is a must-have. This is a must-listen. This is as important to this industry as Master of Puppets and Dirt. Master of Puppets from Metallica and Dirt.
Wow. That is
This
high
album
praise from you.
will be marked. I'm sure of it, and they're going to have a record deal. Everyone on Twitter is going crazy over it. But again, this is a Beyond Your Radio kind of thing. And the minute I put it on, well, actually, I'll take that back. Bands do dumb things. I don't know why. They just do this. They have to have some sort of, some people pull it off, but they got to have that minute or 2 minute noisy beginning that just doesn't matter. Just start the record. There is a minute or 2 minutes of noise production. I don't know why it's there. It doesn't lead you anywhere. That's the only takeaway I have from the record.
I remember I had a long drive and you recommended I listen to this.
Yes,
And
listen to this album.
You told me nothing else.
Yeah.
You just said you need to listen to this, knowing what you like. And I remember calling you going, 2 things, Mark. 1, holy shit,
Yeah.
that was awesome. And the second one was, but what the hell was up with the first 2 minutes?
Yeah.
I just listened to the first 30 seconds on my earphone to Hail the Void. And the first 30 seconds,
There was definitely a void, that's for sure.
There's a void there. They're trying. I don't know what. Listen, if the band is out there and they want to talk why they did it, I'd love to hear it. There's not too many bands that pull this kind of stuff off. I can think of like Tool. Matthew Good did it with one particular record, but it's difficult. I would rather you just got on with it and started your record. I don't need the intro. I mean,
if you're gonna do that, make it
maybe
like
with
a couple
Eminem, I can
seconds.
take the intro, but
Well,
maybe
2 minutes of it, like if you're doing
Maybe that's
15
how they-
seconds and then bam, okay, I'll live
maybe
with that.
that's how they tune up.
hey, if you're gonna tune up, I get it, but 30 seconds, I can deal. So anyway, excuse me. So I want to thank my panelists for participating in our first What's in Your Ear show. Hopefully it has exposed some new music or backtrack to some fantastic musicians who don't get air radio play anymore. We'll do this again in 2 weeks with our panelists with more albums and selections from our listening palettes, we'll call it. We're on the web at www.beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Of course, please like, comment, and of course, subscribe. And you can check out our Patreon options, which are coming soon. There's more new shows coming and plenty of articles on our website, including Music Bites, which Chef Jeff here has already participated in, album review Saturdays, and of course, famous Unknown Sundays. Happy listening, everyone.